Today's video is going to be another great one. I want to talk about the idea of social anxiety and my one most important tip that I have for basically crushing social anxiety and overall just anxiety in general when you're out in public, or if you get that weird nervous feeling. Maybe you're not even going up to talk to someone, but you're just in the mall and you feel like people are staring at you, or maybe you're walking down the street. I know a lot of people, they get that feeling, right? It's like that kind of knot in their stomach. And the tip that I'm going to share today is going to be so powerful in combating that, and it's something that has kind of led to a lot of transformations in my life, and something where if you don't get this handled, you can never expect to go on to higher stages of social interactions or business or whatever you may have it. So like I always say, you got to take the first step before you can get to the second, before you get to the third. This is one of those base steps that you have to get out of the way. Now, quickly before I go into that, there's this cool ass park that no one really knows about, and it's called Denier Park. It's right down along the Raritan River where I live. It probably makes no sense to you, but I didn't even know that there was this badass mural along here, so maybe I'll try to film it, see if you can see some of that. Let me go back this other way here. It's pretty cool, so I'm just going to walk along this as I talk, and I don't know, I love it. I love seeing artwork, man. I wish there were more murals like this. So anyway, side little point there. Hope you enjoyed the mural, because I'm liking it, man. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so let's get into it. What is this number one thing? Well, the number one thing, and let me hold it this way so I'm not holding that camera there. The number one thing is essentially coming to the realization that everyone, I should say, is their own star of their own movie. Now, what do I mean by that? What I'm essentially saying is that when you're walking down the street, no one is really paying attention to you. Guess what? That next person that you're walking down the street that you see, they're thinking, man, this person's probably judging me. And guess what? The person that you see across the street from there, that person's thinking the same thing. And so on is the next person and the next person and the next person. So remember, everyone is the star of their own movie. And again, what that means is that everyone is in their own head. Everyone has their own narrative and is essentially thinking the same thing about themselves. So you're no different than anyone else. And it's funny because a lot of times when I'll tell people this, I'll even say, like, kind of make a joke about it, like, oh, like, you think that person actually cares? Like, you think you're actually that important? It's funny, like, you put yourself, your ego, right? It wants to inflate itself, right? That's what egotistical means, right? Self-centered. So your ego, in many ways, can be a good thing, but in this case, it's bad because it's overinflated to the point where you think that you're so important that everyone is going to be judging you. Now, again, it's funny because if you really were that important that everyone was judging you, you actually would probably have a much more successful life and be someone that people, maybe some sort of public figure or celebrity or something like that. But most likely that's just not the case. So since that's probably not the case, and again, you can work towards that. If that's your goal, is you want to have more eyes on you, or I can show you how to do that. I mean, that's not all that hard to do. But the funny thing is that most people, right, they think that's the case when they're so far away from that. So once you start to realize this, that, everyone is staring at their own self. No one is walking down the street and just like analyzing you with a microscope or a magnifying glass and trying to like depict all your little flaws and the weird way that maybe you're walking or something like that, or some sort of pimple that you have on your face. The brutal truth is that they're going to forget about you in 20 seconds. And even if you did something crazy, like, for example, even if you were walking down the street and you said, "Hey!" and you just yelled really loudly, that's still, even if you did something like that, they're going to look at you for about 2 seconds and then forget about you. So even realizing that, or if you were to be wearing like some sort of like insane looking shirt or something like that, they're still going to, it's going to capture their attention for about a second more than otherwise. So, while maybe this is kind of depressing and kind of ego deflating, that's what it's meant to do, is realize that everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's thinking that, but none of it really matters at the end of the day. So I guess that can kind of segment into like just enjoy yourself and have fun, right? Stop being so rigid and paranoid and anxious and having all these weird perverse thoughts in your brain, because they serve no purpose. And even if that was the case, what purpose would that serve, right? Even if it was the case that everyone walking down the street was analyzing you and was critiquing you, which it's absolutely, I can guarantee you it's not. But even if it was, what would that serve you in overanalyzing that and thinking about it, right? It would still be a detriment to you. So either way that you look at it, thinking like overanalyzing what people think, it's just not going to serve you in any way. And so again, that's going to be a huge breakthrough for you. It was a huge breakthrough for me. Deflate your ego, realize that you're really not that important. And let me tell you, if you ever do reach the point where you're that important, then guess what? You're doing something right. And even then, you still don't want to overanalyze things. So that's pretty much the topic that I wanted to cover today. And I know it's super helpful, been so helpful for me, because I used to be at like a very almost like hard case level of kind of like, I was always like pretty good with talking with people, like one-on-one, but like more so if I was in like a busy environment, like at a shopping mall, for example, where there's lots of people. And like, for some reason I would always think like, oh, like everyone's like looking, or you know what I mean? I just like an overall like low level anxious kind of vibe going on. And I would feel it in my stomach, and I'm sure that you guys can relate as well. And that really comes from, number one, you just not being comfortable with yourself and being overly tight, right? Not exercising those release muscles enough. So I have other videos on your release muscles, super helpful. It's something that I do every day. So I don't know if you saw that last video that I put out. It's called the elevator release. So where I'll just go into an elevator and I'll start just basically like raising my voice as loud as I can get it. And that's amazing, because that actively, literally draws out a lot of this regression and tension that you've been holding in yourself for probably years, probably since you were a kid. And once you can start to release that, again, you'll literally feel that knot in your stomach unlocking, and that tension just dissipating and dissolving away. And man, once you get that, you get hooked on it. It's such a great feeling to wake up in the morning and to go to sleep at night, to go about your day without having that knot in your stomach. Man, that's worth $1 million. Just that feeling alone right there. So helpful. And as I'll recircle back around to what I said in the beginning of the video, you have to take it step by step. So if you don't do a lot of this release work, if you don't do a lot of this basic anxiety control work, you're never going to be able to progress to the upper echelons in business, social relationships, and overall just feeling good and having optimal health and focus. Because you have to remember too that when you have this baseline anxiety, right? Think about how much bandwidth, right? That term bandwidth is like your overall kind of energy for the day, or your overall, whatever it is, willpower, focus. Think about how much that's going to eat that up, right? If you have that low refrigerator hum, so to speak, of anxiety. And it's crazy because a lot of people, they maybe know something's kind of wrong, but they've lived their pretty much entire life like this. So they kind of have become numb to it. And that's almost the most dangerous thing, because you get into this sense like you're jaded, like you're so kind of almost calcified in your ways. You're so numb from years and years and years of just having this low level anxiety that it just messes you up. So you got to release the tension. You got to drop your ego and realize that everyone is the star of their own movie. And once you do that, I can tell you that those basic little things of walking down the street, walking in a shopping mall, those little things where you might have had that low level anxiety before, they're just going to go away. And the key is, not only are they going to go away, but you're actually then, instead of losing energy from those small little tasks, you're actually going to look forward to them. You're actually going to look forward to being in environments like that, and you'll actually gain energy. And that's one of the biggest things, is you will not only not have that anxiety now, but you'll actually be gaining energy from those interactions. So that's the speech, if you want to call it a speech, for today. And something that's been super helpful. I know it's going to help you guys get rid of that low anxiety, get rid of that ego, realize everyone's the own star of your movie. You're not that important, and that's it. Great talk. I'm out.